Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from a Frontier. Thank you for stopping by. I hope the week has gone well. Let me start with some macro thoughts. The veteran investor Jim Rogers says the next bear market in stocks will be the worst in our lifetime. He is a very famous investor who wrote a book, I can't remember. He got on a motorbike and went around all the emerging markets in the world. It's an excellent book. Over the last weekend, I said the markets worldwide have exited its halcyon days. And I was talking about last Friday. Asia got whacked, according to David Inglis. Chinese equities getting killed. To reiterate the point, the markets worldwide exited its halcyon days on Friday. S&P 500 has erased its gain for the year, closed at a 2-month low, and is on track for its worst week since 2011. The Dow plunged more than 1,000 points for the second time in 4 days. The MSCI Asia Pacific Index is set for the worst week since at least February 2016. This is how the first correction since February 2016 looks like. That's from Holger. It's been faster than previous corrections. S&P 500 entered correction territory, finished below its Monday flash crash low, fell 100 points or 3.7% and closed at 2581. So, we've seen a very sharp, quick correction. I was talking over the weekend about halcyon days, when storms do not occur. Today the term is used to denote a past period that is being remembered for being happy and or successful. The Dow fell 1,000 points into the finish. You can see that we've seen volatility return with a vengeance and downside risk rear its head. China accounted for 42% of the world's e-commerce transaction value in 2016, a surge from less than 1% in 2005. Hope thoughts, I like this photograph. Greetings from the Golden Tulip Hotel, Dar es Salaam. It's a photograph of the pool from Geopolitical on Instagram. In this other photograph from Peter's size 10, Mount Kenya is seen in all her glory on a freezing Sunday morning in Lewa. That took me back to that book I read, Sir HALFORD MACKINDER and the First Ascent of Mount Kenya. I went out into the freshness of the sunrise and beyond great herds of game grazing peacefully within a few hundred yards, saw to the south on the horizon, 100 miles away, the snowy dome of Kilimanjaro, and 100 miles to the north, the twin peaks of Mount Kenya, streaked with glaciers. These words were written in 1899 by Sir HALFORD MACKINDER at the start of his epic journey to conquer Mount Kenya, 17,057 feet. The second highest mountain in Africa, an achievement that ranks high in the pantheon of British exploration and endeavour. In this, Layla is seen on the top of Mount Kenya. That's my daughter, who's now at Nottingham. This was taken many years ago. In this next photograph, Mount Kenya is seen from Mount Kenya Safari Club, which was founded in Nanyuki in 1959 and became a mecca for the international jet set. Another photograph seeing Mount Kenya from the air as we flew by it one day, and finally one of Mount Kenya at night taken by Ray Matata. This interview in the Vulture magazine with Quincy D. Jones in conversation has caught all kinds of attention in both music and manner. Quincy Jones is always registered, from afar anyway, as smooth, sophisticated, impeccably well-connected. 28 Grammy Awards, co-producing Michael Jackson's biggest-selling albums, but in person the 84-year-old music industry Macha is far spikier and more complicated. All I've ever done is tell the truth, says Jones, seated on a couch in his palatial Bel Air home and about to dish some outrageous gossip. I've got nothing to be scared of, man. Currently in the midst of an extended victory lap ahead of his turning 85 in March, a Netflix documentary and a CBS special hosted by Oprah Winfrey are on the horizon. Jones, dressed in a loose sweater, dark slacks, and a jaunty scarf, talks like he has nothing to lose. He name drops, he scolds, he praises, and he tells and retells stories about his very famous friends. Even when his words are harsh, he says them with an enveloping charm, frequently leaning over for fist bumps and to tap me on the knee. I've got nothing to be scared of, man, he says. He worked for Michael Jackson more than anyone he wasn't related to. What's something people don't understand about him? Michael stole a lot of stuff. He stole a lot of songs. Donna Summer's State of Independence, originally written by Vangelis, a long-time Yes frontman John Anderson. State of Independence was recorded by Donna Summer in 1982. He's talking about the notes don't lie, man. He was as Machiavellian as they come. What's your sign, man? Pisces. Me too. It's a great sign. What stirred everything up? Is it all about Trumpism? It's Trump and uneducated rednecks. Trump is just telling them what they want to hear. I used to hang out with him. He's crazy. Limited mentally. A megalomaniac. Narcissistic. I can't stand him. I used to date Ivanka, you know. It's a great interview, well worth reading in full. This Nick Seeley poem is too good, indeed it is. Take a read. And finally, this was the beach right next to my house in Mombasa. It's a 6-kilometer beach. It's where Nyali Beach Hotel, which has now been taken over by Saharan Africa, is. Political reflection. South Korean President Moon Jae-in plans to meet North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's sister and other senior North Korean officials who are coming to the south on Friday for the Winter Olympics in Pyeongchang. My conclusions are that the South and North Koreans' courtship is getting steamy. And you can see that the US is the odd person out at the moment. Going back to September 2017, when I was writing about North Korea and I said a screaming comes across the sky, I also said Kim Jong-un has been precise and calibrated in his response to President Trump. And now he's sending his sister. You can see it's a very clever and quite granular engagement. When you view things from Kim the Rocket Man's perspective, he is speaking the language his adversaries understand lucidly. One of the strategies of the pre-regime change moment has been to demonize the other leader. And front and center in Kim's mind must be the image of Saddam Hussein being hung by his neck and of Muammar Gaddafi meeting his death after having been sodomized with a bottle. When you view things from Kim the Rocket Man's perspective, you might appreciate that far from being logical, he is in fact being ruthlessly logical, and he is speaking the language his adversaries understand lucidly. North Korea held a military parade to mark the 70th anniversary of its armed forces. RT produced a video, the link is on Rich Wrap-Ups. Juche Fest 2018 screenshots, that's from Comparativist. B-52 strikes Taliban training camp in Afghanistan, dropping 24 precision-guided munitions, the most the US military says ever launched by a B-52. Trump has dialed up the volume. Planes could still vanish into thin air like MH370. That was August 2015. I said then the signal announcing this new arrhythmic normal was the disappearance of MH370. Picking up the signal through the noise of our world in 2014 is no easy thing. In fact, my view is that the new normal is a very arrhythmic world. When I plugged arrhythmia into my computer, it threw this up. For years, he'd been studying the phenomenon of chaos, of which an arrhythmic heartbeat was a perfect example. His Excellency Johan Borgstam, who was the Swedish ambassador to Nairobi and now is in Ethiopia, told me the signal announcing this new arrhythmic normal was the disappearance of MH370. Since then, planes have been falling out of the sky like flies. And the uncertainty around MH370 and MH17 is sharpened by the way the story is seemingly turned on and off. Took me back to Don DeLillo. We are not witnessing the flow of information so much as pure spectacle, or information made sacred, ritually unreadable. The small monitors of the office and the car become a kind of idolatry here, where crowds might gather in astonishment. Imran Khan, the former Playboy cricketer and would-be Prime Minister of Pakistan, gets a big spread in the Times. Former Director of National Intelligence James Clapper, former CIA Director John Brennan in conversation with Rob Reiner. That link is on the website. Going back to that article I wrote in December 2016, we have a DV-8 Tomahawk. I said then, I have no doubt that Putin ran a seriously 21st century, predominantly digital program of interference which amplified the Trump candidacy. Trump was an ideal candidate for this kind of support. Few smarter, nicer, more loyal and professional people in President Trump's team than Hope Hicks. Seems a good time to say that. Piers Morgan. Massacre in Myanmar. This is the investigation Reuters was reporting when two of its correspondents were arrested in December. In Myanmar, bound together, the 10 Rohingya Muslim captives watched their Buddhist neighbors dig a shallow grave. Soon afterwards, on the morning of September the 2nd, all 10 lay dead. At least 2 were hacked to death by Buddhist villagers, the rest were shot by Myanmar troops, 2 of the grave diggers said. 1 grave for 10 people, said Soy Che, 55, a retired soldier from Din's Rakhine Buddhist community, who said he helped dig the pit and saw the killings. It is appalling. International markets, the Bank of England has raised the growth outlook, trims inflation and unemployment forecasts versus November. Now sees 2018 GDP at plus 1.8%, 2019 at plus 1.8%, 2020 at plus 1.8%. Previously, they were seeing it at 1.6, 1.7, and 1.7. Saying rates may have to rise faster and earlier than planned if the economy continues on its expected path. 10-year UK gilt yields jumped as the Bank of England raised the prospect of higher rates amidst a booming global economy. Takes me back to mirrors on the ceiling, the pink champagne on ice. I said then, which was September 2016, if volatility spikes, positions are going to be reduced en masse, or to put it another way, to borrow the lyrics from the Eagles' Hotel California, mirrors on the ceiling, the pink champagne on ice. And she said, we are all just prisoners here of our own device. Last thing I remember, I was running for the door. I had to find the passage back to the place I was before. Relax, said the night man, we are programmed to recede. You can check out any time you like, but you can never. Currency markets, euro dollar, last trading 122.63, dollar index 19.25, that's come back above 19, Japanese yen 109, the figure, Swiss franc 0.9379. The pound, which had a storming session yesterday, got above 140s, but went back below it, we're at 139.64. The Australian dollar 0.7782, Indian rupee 64.365, South Korean won 1091.58, the Rial 328.56, Egyptian pound 17.6845, and the Rand 12.1275. Dollar index, I'll put out a 3-month chart, and you can see we've rebounded a little bit here. Euro dollar, we've come off those highs we saw above 125. We're at 122.62 last. Crypto hedge fund opens early as bulls rush to buy the dip. Last trading 7,900 on Bitcoin. Winklevoss twins see Bitcoin hitting 320,000. Saying non-believers will suffer a failure of imagination. Oh yes. Elvis has left the building, the global investment firm Jefferies wrote in a note in a note describing Steve Wynn's departure from his namesake businesses. Twitter reported its first quarterly profit. Despite user stagnation, the share price surged. And as I said on the 2nd of January, I prefer to look for opportunities below the headliners, unlike Twitter at $24. WTI crude oil, which is on the down, last trading $60.42. If we lose 60, we should fall away quite quickly. Gold, last trading at 13.19. That had staged an enormous recovery and now has been pulling back a little bit. Emerging markets. Interestingly, JP Morgan's NB spread is down to 258 basis points, the tightest since mid-2014. I wrote that over the weekend. How long this lasts is anybody's guess, I said. Bond rout deepens with emerging market debt especially hit hard. Argentina's 10-year yields jumped 21 basis points. Brazil and Mexico's by 12. Have a look at that. And as I said over the weekend, emerging and frontier market borrowers need to get their skates on and pull the trigger real quick on any borrowing they've been considering for this year. Moving on to Africa, we're not spying on the African Union headquarters we built, China says. And they met with Moussa Faki of the African Union. I, however, responded in an article in the FT where I said there's this theory in Africa that China is Santa Claus. It isn't. Our leaders need to be disavowed of that notion, obviously not yet ready. We have secured more than $3 billion in foreign direct investment in just 7 weeks. We want this country to move forward. That's President Mnangagwa of Zimbabwe. Interesting article about Little Africa. Life drains from Little Africa as China dream fades for its fortune seekers. That's in The Guardian. DRC massive landslide yesterday in Rubaya's Gakombe coltan mine. Dozens of casualties reported, but hard to confirm exact figures at the moment. But what you see is dystopian scene, isn't it? South African all shares down 4.82% so far this year. Dollar rand. This is from LC Trader, patiently waiting for Zexit to break 1180. In meantime, not much to do, range 1180 to 1220. Nigerian all shares up 13.29% so far this year. The Ghana Stock Exchange Composite Index is the world's best. It's up 25.95% so far this year. Bacchus goes bananas. What is cheaper than beer and gives you energy? Strong, smooth, with notes of melon and a hint of a buttery aftertaste. Leopold Lemmer's banana wine may not delight the critics, but it is a hit in northern Tanzania, where it sells for 23 cents a bottle. It's cheaper than beer, says Samuel Juma, security guard, and brings more energy. Locals glug their way through 12,000 litres a day. The spray from Victoria Falls can be seen up to 25 miles away, hence its local name, Mosi Oatunya, the smoke thunders. A little bit of a video there. Kenya tourism grew 20% in 2017, despite poll jitters. Strategies to revive Kenya's tourism sector bore fruit after the country recorded a 20.3% growth last year to post earnings of 120 billion shillings, despite the long electioneering period. This is an improvement from 99.69 billion earned in 2016, according to the Tourism Secretary Najib Balala. Latest statistics released by the ministry show international arrivals increased by 9.8% to 1.4 million from the previous year's 1.3 million. The United States of America remains Kenya's leading market, growing 17% with 114,507 arrivals. President Kenyatta tweeted our tourism sector defied the long electioneering period last year to post 120 billion revenue compared to 99 in 2016. A total of 4.05 million bed nights were taken up by Kenyans in 2017 compared to 3.5 million in 2016, representing growth of 15.9%. Domestic market performance is measured in terms of bed nights, as I said. Finally, TPS Serena Hotels is up 10.769% year to date and is the only share that mimics the tourism sector. Nairobi all shares up 5.37% this year. The Kenya shilling has strengthened further to 100.8, and the NSE 20 is up 0.92% so far this year. I wish you a great weekend.